what we viewed as the top tier quarterbacks in the AFC and their teams and compare them with those rosters in the NFC, as well as now some of the up and coming teams like the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans and all these other groups. There's a really, really big gap between the talent level of these organizations. And I feel like what it goes down to is something I like to call superstar quarterback malpractice. These organizations have done a disservice to these quarterbacks just because they're all-time great.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The New World. And in today's video, we discuss the push for a Super Bowl the Buffalo Bills can potentially make with the absence of Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and possibly Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. Even though it seems like this could be the easiest path in Josh Allen's playoff experience, there's one big factor that could haunt this run, and that is the Bills' defense. But with the dominance of Josh Allen and his offense, and James Cook putting up another 1,500-yard plus season and looking like possibly the best running back in football this season, there is still much hope that Josh Allen can make his first Super Bowl. So, before we discuss, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't, turn on those notifications to stay tuned for more content, and hit that like button if you enjoy the video, and comment if you think Josh Allen could get to his first Super Bowl despite his defense's known struggles. Now fellas, with the season the Buffalo Bills have had and the absence of Burrow, Mahomes, and likely Lamar, is this the Bills' biggest window to a Super Bowl?
Man, this is such a frustrating question, especially coming off of that horrifying and demoralizing loss that they just took to the Philadelphia Eagles. Jay, Buffy, this is the window. But the crazy part is it doesn't really feel like it. I mean, and maybe this is just kind of the energy is really, the morale is really low with the Buffalo Bills coming off of that loss 13-12 against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm really just kind of just very, very low on this team overall now, but I haven't been that high on them throughout the course of the season. I think the only reason why we're talking about this being the biggest window, quote unquote, is because those heavy hitters are are not going to be in the postseason. And Lamar Jackson, they have one game to decide if they're going to make it or not, but the Buffalo Bills are probably not facing any of those juggernauts from the quarterback position. Having that being said, this Bills team, there are other teams previously that are better than these Bills teams, in my opinion. Offensively, the stats, like everything on paper looks really good. It looks really good. Like Josh Allen, his season on paper, it looks pretty solid. It's all cool. He's top 5 in a lot of these stats, he's still Superman. But I think that right there is the problem. I just want to kind of hit on this overall message because I feel like, just repeating and reiterating the same shit over and over again. If you just take a comparison between what we viewed as the top tier quarterbacks in the AFC and their teams and compare them with those rosters in the NFC, as well as now some of the up and coming teams like, the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans and all these other groups, there's a really, really big gap between the talent level of these organizations. And I feel like what it goes down to is something I like to call superstar quarterback malpractice. These organizations have done a disservice to these quarterbacks just because they're all-time great. I think that's the problem. I mean, look at the talent that Josh Allen, look at this wide receiver room. This wide receiver room is not good. This team is winning games on the back of the running game. They have the league leading rusher and James Cook on the team and Josh Allen's running ability. And then they're just expecting Josh Allen to make plays and to be Superman. And yeah, he can do that over the course of a 17-game season, but that becomes the problem because when you go against a roster that has a great defense, like look at some of these juggernauts out here. What do we expect Josh Allen to do? Look at what just happened with Philadelphia today. What do we expect him to do if he goes up against a Denver or goes up against the Houston Texans? It's not going to be good. And it doesn't matter how great Josh Allen is. We know his archetype, but we also just know the limitation of the quarterback position. Yes, the quarterback is the most important position on the field, but that doesn't mean that they can carry you to a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes couldn't carry the Chiefs to a Super Bowl last year, and people are throwing him in the GOAT conversation talks, all-time great status. So what do we expect Josh Allen's of the world and the Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrows to do? The team has to be better. We need to stop saying, is the Josh Allen window closing and putting all of the onus on the quarterback. We need to start talking about the tone at the top from an organizational structure and then get to the coaching and then get to the coordinators. Because in my opinion, those are the guys that have let down these superstar quarterbacks. They have not done a good job. But these are the niggas that continue to maintain and retain their jobs when they have no winning. None. So really, that's what I feel like we need to harbor on. Did Josh Allen make some mistakes in this game against Philadelphia? Absolutely. But when we're talking about the Bills window, we can't just look at one game. We can't just look at one season. Josh Allen's been in the league for a good amount. These guys are pushing a decade in the league, and they have no championships. So then it's like, okay, is it because of him? Is it because of this guy? No. Because if we just look at their complete body of work and compare it to some of these other guys that have won Super Bowls, like Patrick, historically, they've had really good teams. But look at that behemoth of a roster that's on the other side with Jalen Hurts. His ass getting to a Super Bowl. Is Jalen Hurts as talented as Josh Allen? Anybody in their right mind is going to say no. I don't care how you feel about Jalen Hurts. The roster is way better. Even when going back to when Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl, their roster, it was better. So I think that we need to put more onus and accountability on whoever the fuck the GM is with the Buffalo Bills, as well as the coaching, because execution has not been well, and play calling was very, very questionable in this game today as well. So that's kind of where I want to start and open it up to the fellas. Is I think that there is an organizational structure problem, and these teams have failed these superstar quarterbacks. They have failed them. They have gotten complacent, and they have gotten lazy. And it's really a disgrace. And, this is the unfortunate situation with how the contract structure is with these guys. There's like no benefit to leaving the situation that they're currently in. That's like we don't see movement at the quarterback position for real. It's like when niggas are talking about Joe Burrow and asking him to get traded, there's no way it's really going to happen. These guys, in order to maximize on their earning potential, they have to basically stay with the team that drafted them. That's basically what they have to do. This is not like the NBA where, a LeBron or a KD or these guys can just move ship and go wherever they want when there's incompetence in the organization. NFL don't really work like that. So that's really kind of my thought point. I can, talk to you guys about the team and their opportunity this year, but they really have missed the window. The only reason why we're talking about this as a discussion is because Patrick and Burrow are not going to be there. But have y'all seen the New England Patriots? Have y'all seen what that boy Drake May put on display today? 5 touchdowns, 90%. You know what? I'm just going to keep moving on to you guys and let you guys harbor on that stuff. But I think that this is just malpractice from an organization perspective. And that's what the focal point of this conversation needs to be about.
Yes, my point, and I'm gonna kind of go a little deep with this because I do follow this team a lot, especially on social media. Because the quarterback is one of my favorite players to ever play this game. Ever since 2019, I've liked him as my favorite player. But I'm gonna have to start from him because I think a lot of Buffalo
Can I ask you one
fans-
question really, really quick? Do you agree with like the message that I'm portraying? Because Josh Allen is your boy. And I know like how many times they have been knocking on the door and there are just some structural things in place that have not fared well. Like, do you think that that's a component or are you going in a different direction?
I think that's the biggest component, how they missed their window because honestly, if you look back at it, 2021, they should have made some decisions after that loss against Kansas City. Didn't. And so now we're here. So I'm going to start with him first and then I'm going to get to everybody else because I think this game was on him. Like, I feel like this is maybe one of the worst games. And honestly, all their games they lost like this year, I'm not going to say they were all on him, but the offense, like in certain games, they stall out, man. They stalled out this game. They stalled out in the game against Atlanta. They stalled out against the game. And what was the other game? Oh, Houston. So a lot of times it's stalled out in a lot of these games, and it's kind of the reverse effect where they're not known for having a great defense. Their run defense is terrible. Their run defense actually really, really well today, but they couldn't run the football, and that's kind of where their offense starts. They run the football the most, and James Cook is the leading rusher in the league. So they like to get to that offense, and they can't get to it. They can't really pass the ball down the field, and that really has a lot to do with Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane, I think he said on the record in, I want to say 2023 or 2024. I think it was 2023. But basically the sentiment that he said on the little podcast was, we're averaging 30 points a game. We have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Why did we have to make changes to wide receiver? And first of all, that statement is so ludicrous because after they lost Stephon Diggs, they didn't have anybody in the receiving room that had a bright spot. I think the only bright spot was Khalil Shakir, and he's not really a. I'm not trying to disrespect him, but he's not really a boundary receiver. Like, you're not going to put him as an X or as a Y and ask him to win a route. Like, that's not what he's there for. So we have a standpoint like that, and if the run game gets shut down, which has gotten shut down, and most of the games they lost, you have to rely on the passing game, and the passing game has not really been there. They had a couple big plays, which they've been missing this whole season, and last season too. But a lot of it has to do with Josh Allen, and I'm not gonna lie, this has probably been the worst season he's had since 2019, or if you want to say 2021. It's probably been the worst season he's had. Last year he was all-time great in sack avoidance. I think he's gotten sacked 40 times this year. I think last year he got sacked 14 times. So he's gotten sacked almost triple the amount of times he's got sacked last year. The offensive line has definitely regressed, and it has a lot to do with players being in and out, Spencer Brown being in and out. But it starts with him. He has not been seeing the field well. He missed on that pass at the end of the game. And, that's fine. That happens a lot of times. And I wasn't really too mad at that. I was really more so mad at the sack that he took. The sack that he took on third down, and it really took them out of field goal range. And he's done this at least 3 times this season where he's taken 20-yard sacks because he's trying to buy time for people to get. And the Buffalo Bills wide receivers don't create much separation. They don't have an X guy. We can joke all we want on the Keon Coleman, I love cookies. He has not become that guy. Khalil Shakir is a slot guy. They utilize him, in the slot. He's an underneath guy. They got Brandon Cooks in there who, they just got, and he's really the only downfield threat. Josh Palmer. It's a lot of like guys that, you have for depth. And those are guys that they are putting on the boundaries. And, that's not going to command a lot of respect to the opposing defense. So you're putting a lot of pressure on your quarterback. And and this is the next point I'm going to bring up. Joe Brady has honestly been disappointed this season. A lot of his play calls that he's been running, he kind of got away this game. I know after this game commences, people are going to talk about Josh Allen, but Joe Brady was almost worth as much blame as Josh Allen going into this game. In that last drive, you're going to run on 2nd and 10 in the clutch. You're going to run the ball with Ty Johnson. When you have to work the ball 70 yards, score a touchdown, and then on third and long, you're gonna run a screen pass, a bubble screen pass, and then on 4th down, he got lucky with the whole hook and ladder which they ran against Houston. But it's a lot of stuff, like it's a lot of predictability. Any team that watches them in these recent games, I've been seeing this. 1st down, they're gonna run a draw with James Cook. That don't work. There's gonna be a bubble route that they're gonna run, like a little screen. And then if that doesn't work, they drop back and they run a little mesh route, or they do the little orbit thing with Shakir. So it's like they run the same offense. And, a lot of people chalk it up to, man, the wide receiver is bad. Some of the wide receiver route combinations have been bad. They just been bad. And that's Joe Brady. That's not really on the wide receivers. You really can't blame them because these are the wide receivers Brandon Beane gave to his reigning MVP. So he has to work with that. So to conclude this, I do think the main issue is the front office. And honestly, these last couple of games, because I was kind of on the hot seat about this coach, the last couple of games have kind of given me a lot more respect for Sean McDermott, because Sean McDermott seems like the only person doing his job well. Their defense is never going to be good against the run, but if they can be serviceable enough, that's good enough for them to win. And these last couple of games, they've been serviceable enough. Sean McDermott, ever since he took him back over, play calling for the defense, they've been better. I got to give him credit, but the OC, their GM, all on the hot seat at the end of the year. And a lot of people don't realize this, but an element of their passing game that is missing is Dalton Kincaid. And for some reason, he's always injured. If y'all actually want to look at a fun fact, if y'all see every game they've lost this season, Dalton Kincaid has been out in all those games. And I think if you look at Josh Allen's touchdown to interception ratio, I think he's thrown like 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in the games that Dalton Kincaid has been out. Now, when he's targeting Dalton Kincaid and Josh Allen's passer rating is over 150. So they have the best connection in the league if you actually go off of passer rating. And, a lot of people don't take that into account. But when you watch a game like this, and he's struggling to see guys over the field, Dalton Kincaid is that safety blanket. He's been that safety blanket this year, albeit without the injuries. But yeah, man, a lot of fault has to actually go to him, Josh Allen. I know he's the great play, he's Superman, but he hasn't played his best this season. When it's come to reading coverages, seeing where his guys are down the field, reading blitzes, that's also been another thing. So, but he has been accurate for the most part this season. I don't think that's been a bad issue. And then now he's hobbling with this foot injury. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. I think a lot of people are going to put a lot of pressure on them because Kansas City is out the playoffs to win a championship. But honestly, I don't think they have a championship roster. Honestly, if I'm looking at it from the standpoint, I don't think they can be. Definitely a nightmare matchup would be Houston. Facing Houston in any round of the playoffs, that's not a matchup they would like to see. And going down the line, you're gonna play against better defenses in Denver and Houston. So you have to be ready for that. So definitely don't see them winning the championship. They can prove me wrong, of course, but it's the Buffalo Bills organization. They haven't won anything ever. They've lost 4 straight Super Bowls at times. So it'd be pretty hard to prove me wrong. But I'm just not seeing it, man. It's been a disappointing year. And the last point I want to go on to, Keon Coleman, brother, your job is coming up, man. Your job is coming up, man. And Cam Newton has, shed a lot of light on Keon Coleman's faults, but like these healthy scratches, that's not what the city needs. That's not what the team needs. So, brother, you need to get that act, or you'll be on the trade block. And for some reason, I feel like if he gets traded to another team, he's going to play better. So kudos to him for that. But yeah, man, this team isn't winning anything. They're not winning anything, and they're not real contenders. People just put that title to them because they're essentially a 2-man offense. So 2-man offense, and they have honestly, in my opinion, a below average defense. It's not going to win you any championships.